Nothing can be taken for granted when you get to Mars. There's a lot of things we just don't know.
Space always has a way of throwing us curveballs and surprising us.
I mean, until we get the data that says we're on the ground safely, I'm going to be worried that we're not going to make it.
Entry, descent, and landing is often referred to as the 7 minutes of terror, because it takes about 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere of Mars to the ground safely.
The spacecraft has to do all of this by itself.
There are many things that have to go right to get Perseverance onto the ground safely.
There's a lot counting on this. This is the first leg of our sample return relay race. There's a lot of work on the line. Starting about 10 minutes before atmosphere entry, we get rid of really the spacecraft part of the rover that's been supporting us.
We come screaming in to the Martian atmosphere at 12 to 13,000 miles per hour. And the heat shield is what dissipates all that initial energy through friction.
The vehicle will continue actually flying itself through the atmosphere. It's sort of like a transforming vehicle that went from spacecraft and now kind of like an aircraft actively guiding itself.
When we're going slow enough, we deploy a parachute.
The biggest supersonic parachute we've ever sent to another planet. It's critical for slowing down the vehicle.
But Perseverance's entry, descent, and landing borrows heavily from that of Curiosity.
But fundamentally, Perseverance is a different rover. She's bigger, she has different instruments.
We've added a lot of sparks on the inside to make it more capable so that it can deal with the landscape that we've given. The science team identified Jezero Crater as basically an ancient lake bed and one of the most promising places to look for evidence of ancient microbial life and to collect samples for future return to Earth. The problem is it's a much more hazardous place to land. You look at Jezero, all you see is danger. How do we go to a site that we never thought was safe enough to go to before? So the heat shield, which has protected us all the way through entry, is no longer necessary. We need to get that off so that we can actually see the ground. And we can see the ground in a couple different ways.
Perseverance will be the first mission to use terrain relative navigation. So while it's descending on the parachute, it will actually be taking images of the surface of Mars and determining where to go based on what it sees. This is finally like landing with your eyes open. Having this new technology really allows Perseverance to land in much more challenging terrain than Curiosity or any previous Mars mission could. Amongst the rocks and the craters and the cliffs, these things are hazardous to the rover, but these are the things that are interesting to the scientists.
Once Perseverance has figured out where she is, we jettison the back shell and parachute and light up our rockets. Those rockets help us steer to a safe landing spot that's nearby.
That descent stage takes us all the way down to about 20 meters off the ground.
That's when we start the sky craning. rover has hit the ground, the descent stage will cut loose from the rover and fly away to a safe distance. Surviving that 7 minutes is really just the beginning for Perseverance. Its job, right, being the first leg of sample return, to go look for those signs of past life on Mars. All that can't start until we get Perseverance safely to the ground. And then that's when the real mission begins.
When you go to another planet, there's just so much potential for making brand new discoveries. I'm actually putting something together that's flying to Mars.
One way or another, you're going to be on the ground in 7 minutes. We want it to be there safely.
My name is Heather Bottom, and I'm helping prepare the spacecraft that will fly our next Mars rover to the Martian surface.
My name is Diana Trujillo, and I work with robotic arms to collect samples on Mars.
I'm Al Chen, and I lead the landing team for Mars 2020.
My name is Michelle Tommy-Colizzi.
My name is Mutige Stricker.
My name is Eric Dagran.
My name is Katie Stack-Morgan, and I'm helping to protect the next Mars rover. Mars 2020 will be seeking signs of ancient life in the rock record of Mars.
What we're trying to do is to roll around the surface of this unknown planet,
Collect samples
Process the tubes as they come back.
To look for things that we call biosignatures.
so that eventually we can bring those samples back to Earth and determine for the very first time, did life exist on Mars?
But also, where could it be preserved for 1 more billion years for us to find it?
Before the rover actually flies, you have to make sure that everything works properly with the flight software and the hardware.
It'll hit the atmosphere going 12, 13,000 miles per hour.
After the journey through space, through a vacuum,
We try to test all of the hardware to the environments that we would see.
So that's where a lot of the testing happens behind me.
we spend lots and lots of hours here testing everything.
it gets put in an oven, it gets put in various chambers and clean rooms. So what we can see over here is the stacked spacecraft.
The robotic arm is actually right behind me.
This is the place where the magic happens. This is the Mars Yard, and this is where our rovers practice driving over rocky terrain. There are hundreds of people that have to come together and build a spacecraft. You kind of have to put those different pieces together and make sure that those pieces all are going to work.
And I feel like such a lucky person to be working on this.
Everything that you're touching, all this hard work that you're putting in the long hours.
20 years, your children won't be reading this in their science book.
It feels great.